Okay, let's get started with our magic ring. To do this, you're going to take your short yarn tail, pinch it between your middle finger and your thumb, bring the yarn up and over your fingers and wrap it around. Come back up and over and cross over your first piece of yarn to form an X. Now we're going to take our hook, we're going to insert it under the right-handed piece of yarn there. Grab that piece of yarn that's on the left-hand side and bring a loop through onto your hook. Twist your hook around in a clockwise manner and come back and grab that piece of yarn on the left-hand side again and bring that through the loop that was already on your hook. Essentially what we've done here is to make a chain onto a ring. Our next steps are going to be to make some single crochets into the ring. To do this, we're going to pick up your long tail of yarn. I like to wrap this around my little finger a couple of times, bring it over the top of my hand, and then pinch what I'm working on between my thumb and my middle finger. To make a single crochet, take your hook and put it through the ring. You're going to grab the yarn behind, either in a yarn over or yarn under fashion. Yarn over hook again and pull that through both loops on your hook. Let's do that again. Hook goes through the ring, grab the yarn from behind, yarn over hook and pull that through both the loops on your hook. It's as simple as that. And keep going until you've made 6 single crochets into your ring. So we've now made 6 single crochet into our magic ring. I'm just putting on a stitch marker here just to demonstrate. So we now have to snug this down. To do this, we're going to take the short yarn tail in one hand, support your single crochet in the other, and simply pull and snug this tight. You'll see that those stitches are starting to come towards each other to form your ring. We will keep working in continuous rounds from here. In our next round, we're going to be making increased single crochets. So here we have our magic ring with 6 single crochets from before. We're going to take our hook and insert it through our first stitch. This can be a little bit tight to begin with. To make our single crochet, yarn over hook and pull a loop through. Yarn over hook again and pull through both loops on your hook. And that's our first single crochet. Now go back into that very same stitch that we've just made a single crochet in. Again, it's a bit tight, that one. Pull a loop through, yarn over hook and pull through both loops on your hook. And there we have just made our first increase stitch. I'm just going to add a stitch marker onto my first stitch of the round through the back loop there. So let's go on to making our second increase. So we're going to make a single crochet in the next stitch. And again, we're going back into the very same stitch. Pull a loop through, yarn over hook and pull through both loops on your hook. And that's it. We're going to keep making these increase stitches in every stitch around. So we're going to be increasing our total stitch count from 6 up to 12. So we've still got our short yarn tail at the back of our work. To get rid of this, you can either crochet over it, but actually when starting out, it's sometimes easier just to mount that onto a needle. We're going to turn our work over, so this is the wrong side of our work. And what we're going to do is we're just going to weave in that yarn tail, pulling it through tight. So we will go through a few stitches, snug it down, and then simply cut off the end. We're going to be increasing again in round 3. In this round, we're going to make a single crochet in our next stitch. And I'm just going to place a stitch marker here in the back loop just to mark the first stitch of the round. And in our next stitch, we are going to make an increase. So make your first single crochet, hook goes back into the same stitch hole, and make another single crochet. And we're going to repeat this another 5 times to get back to our stitch marker. In round 4, we're increasing again. We will be making 2 single crochet to start off with. So insert your hook into your next stitch, make a single crochet. Again, next stitch, another single crochet. I'm just getting that stitch marker back in place. And in our next stitch, we're going to be making an increase stitch. So 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Repeat that process again, another 5 times. Round 5 is our last increase round. For this, we are going to be making 3 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. I'm putting my stitch marker back in place on my first stitch, and in the next stitch we're going to do our increase. So that's 2 single crochet into the same stitch hole, and repeat this process another 5 times around your work. Rounds 6 through 11, we will be making 1 single crochet in each of our 30 stitches around. This will start to make our little flat circle start to curl up and look a bit more like a ball. I'm just placing my stitch marker again there on the first stitch, and I'm going to keep going 1 single crochet in each stitch around. We're nearly back at our stitch marker, so that's our first round of single crochets, almost completed. And we're going to do this another 5 times around. See that starting to curl? This is the right side of our work and this is the wrong side of our work. So you want it to curl up this way. In round 12 we start our decreases. You can see that we've already got this curved shape coming together. So we're going to make a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And so 1, 2 and 3. We're next going to make an invisible decrease. I'll just pop my stitch marker onto the first stitch of the round. Invisible decreases are more subtle than a standard decrease and are made through the front loops of your stitches. So this is not the position we want. This is through both loops. What you want is to just try and catch the front loop of the stitch there. There we go. Yarn over hook and pull a loop through. And then we're going to go into the front loop of the next stitch. Yarn over hook, pull a loop through. We've got 3 loops on our hook, yarn over hook, and pull them through all of them. That is an invisible decrease. Let's do that again. So we're going to make 3 single crochet. 1, 2 and 3. Let's do the decrease again, invisible decrease through the front loops. Insert your hook through the front loop of the next stitch, pull a loop through, go through the front loop of your next stitch, pull a loop through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over hook, and pull that through all 3 loops. Easy as that. In round 13 we will be decreasing again. We're going to make 2 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. I'm going to place a stitch marker in the first stitch of the round. And we're going to make another invisible decrease. So through the front loop of your next stitch, pull a loop through, front loop of the stitch after that, pull a loop through, yarn over hook and pull that through all 3 loops on your hook. One more time. Single crochet number 1, single crochet in the next stitch. So that's 2 single crochet we've made there. And time for another invisible decrease. Through the front loop of your next stitch, pull a loop through, take the hook and go through the front loop of the stitch after that, pull a loop through, yarn over hook and pull through all 3 loops, and that's another invisible decrease. Do that the rest of the way round and then start to stuff your piece. So you want this to be a perfect little ball shape. Keep adding stuffing now after every round that you make. We decrease again in round 14. We're going to make 1 single crochet followed by an invisible decrease. So let's make our first single crochet and then invisible decrease over the next 2 stitches, going through those front loops there. I'm going to place my stitch marker onto my first stitch of the round and keep going the same. 1 single crochet followed by an invisible decrease over the next 2 stitches, and that's through the front loops. Make sure you have kept adding stuffing after each of your rounds, and we're going to do our final set of invisible decreases. And this will take us back down to having just 6 stitches. Once you've finished making all of your decreases, we're simply going to cut our long tail of yarn and then pull it through all the way and out. So this is what our completed ball looks like. I have been using a slightly larger yarn and hook for purposes of demonstration, and I will now show you the size comparison when using a light worsted yarn and a 2.5mm hook. So we now need to add some details to this little ball to make it look like the one on the right hand side. And this is made with some very simple straight stitches using embroidery floss. You can choose to use either black or maybe even some gold. Take 3 strands of your embroidery floss and mount it onto a needle. We haven't closed off the end of our ball yet, so we're going to insert the needle through the hole at the base there and come out through any stitch hole approximately 5 rounds up. Pull your embroidery floss through, but leave yourself a little bit of a tail there because we're going to tie back onto that when we're done. We're now going to count back by 6 stitches. Go into the stitch hole and then come out 1 row above. Snug that down into the groove between stitches. We're then going to go back on ourselves by 7 stitches. So 1 stitch forward compared to the one below. Go in and come out directly above in the row above. And again, snug down that stitch into the groove. We're going across another 7, going in and coming up just above. And snug that stitch down again so it sits in the groove. In this top stitch here, we're going across 6 stitches. And then let's just have a look at our little ball there. So we have 2 long stitches in the middle and our shorter stitches on either side. There's a 2 stitch gap in the middle and a 4 stitch gap between our shorter stitches. So up the top here, we're going to come out 4 stitches across, snug that down, and then count 6 stitches. Back in we go, and we're going to go down the way, so directly down and out. Again, snug this down in the groove. Next stitch comes across 7 stitches. We're going in and down, directly out below. Another 7 stitches across for this one. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Going in, coming out directly below. And then this one, we're making a space of 6 stitches. This is our last stitch to make. So I'm pushing my needle in and I'm going to bring it out in that open end of our ball, exactly where our tail of our embroidery floss is. So we've got these two loose ends. And what I'm going to do to secure this is I'm going to tie the two together. Once you're happy with the number of knots you've put on there, you then can just snip off the ends, like so, and then push them back up inside of the ball. We're going to put this to one side now, and very soon we will start working on the wings. To start off our wings, we need to first form a slip knot. So create a loop around your fingers there and pinch the overlap between your thumb and finger, and then tuck the yarn back through to form this loop. And this is your slip knot. Can be tightened by pulling the short end of your yarn. Insert your hook into the loop and snug that down again, just so it's sitting nicely. I'm going to wrap that long yarn tail around my little finger, bring it over the top of my hand and pinch the short end. Yarn over hook, pull a loop through, that's one chain. Yarn over hook, pull a loop through, that's your second chain. So now go and insert your hook into the second chain from your hook, pull a loop through, yarn over hook, pull it through, that's your single crochet. Go into the same space again and make another single crochet. At the end of every row, we're going to be chaining one and turning. So chain one and turn your work. We're now going to make single crochets into those two stitches there. So first single crochet, second single crochet. Oops, a bit tight there. We've now made another chain and turn. So ignoring the chain, go back in, make a single crochet, and in our next stitch we're going to make an increase stitch. So we're going to make 2 single crochets into this same stitch hole. One, two, three there now. We're at the end of our row, so we're going to chain one and we're going to turn. Ignore your chain and then go back into that stitch there. We're going to make a single crochet in each of these across. 1, 2, and 3. Again, we're at the end of our row, so we're going to make a chain in just a sec. There we go. We're going to turn the work and, ignoring your chain stitch, go back in to that stitch there. Single crochet, 1, 2, and in our next stitch we are going to make an increase stitch, so that's 2 single crochets into the same space. You can see we've got 4 single crochet there in our row now. So again, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Ignoring your chain, going back into the last stitch of the previous round, and we're going to make a single crochet in each stitch across. We're at the end of our row, so again, chain 1 and turn your work. Ignore your chain, go back into the final stitch of the last round and make your single crochet in your next 3 stitches. And in our final stitch, we are going to make an increase. So 2 single crochet into that same space. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches there. Chain 1, turn your work, go back into the last stitch of your previous round, and we're going to make a single crochet in every stitch across. There are a few more rounds of increases to do. The instructions for those are just coming up, and I'd recommend that you pause when those appear to finish off. We now move on to our decrease rows. Remember to chain 1 and turn at the end of each row. At the end of our increase rounds, we will have 10 stitches in our row. We'll start off by chaining 1, and we're going to make a single crochet in every stitch across in this row. So that's 10 single crochet. Just to give you an idea of the shape of this wing, if I hold it out here, you can see it looks a bit like a right angled triangle currently. All the increases are on one side, and when we come to our decrease row, all of our decreases are on the same side. So chain 1, go back into the last stitch of the previous row, and we're going to make 8 single crochet across. Following our 8 single crochet, we are going to make a standard decrease. So for a standard decrease, we're going to insert our hook through the next stitch, and that's through both loops, front and back loops, the whole way. Pull a loop through, and then go through, same again in the next stitch, go through across the whole way, front and back loops, pull a loop through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over hook, and pull through all. We've reached the end of our row, so we're now going to chain 1. And we're actually going to do a standard decrease immediately again. So ignore your chain, go back through that stitch there, through both loops, pull a loop through, go into the next stitch, through both loops, all the way across, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over hook, and pull through. We're now going to single crochet in each of the next stitches across. So that's 7 single crochet after our decrease. So at the end of our row, you can see we're starting to get a bit of a point on the wing there. So let's chain 1 again, And we're going to single crochet, starting in that last stitch of the previous round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to make again a standard decrease in the next 2 stitches. Pulling your loop through, going through the next stitch, pull another loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over hook and pull through all 3. We will chain 1 again and we will turn our work, and immediately we will make another standard decrease. Hook goes through, pull a loop through, hook goes through the next stitch, pull a loop through, yarn over hook and pull your yarn all the way through those 3 loops. And then single crochet in all the remaining stitches of the row. So you've likely got the hang of this by now. You just need to go on to finish off your remaining decreasing rows. After you've finished your decreased rows, you will have 2 stitches remaining. And this is the shape of your wing. Flat end at the top, pointy bit at the bottom. You're now going to cut your yarn and make sure that you leave a long enough tail for stitching this on to the body of the snitch later. And then using your crochet hook, just pull that up and through until it comes all the way out. We've got this tail of yarn from your starting chain which we're going to have to weave in to hide. It will want to curl a little bit. If you want to get rid of that, you can either block this or even use some hair straighteners on it. So to weave in that initial tail of yarn, just pop it onto a needle. And we're going to weave it in just through some of the stitches to hide it. I like to make sure that I go in a few different directions when doing this, as it will just stop the thread from slipping back out again. Make sure you don't pull this too tight when weaving this yarn tail in, as you don't want to distort the shape of your work. And when you're finished, simply cut this flush with your piece. So actually we need to go back and fasten off the body of the snitch. We've got this open end here, we've got 6 stitches and we've got a long yarn tail. Mount this onto a needle and then we're going to go through the front loops of our stitches from the previous round. We will go up through the first and in, and then down and out through the next. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. So up and in through the front loop of the next stitch, down and out through the next, up and in through the next stitch, and if we pull on that, you can see that this is all starting to snug in together. Now you can weave the yarn end in to close this off, but I quite like to do a little half hitch here, just to secure it down as well. So this is me just making a little half hitch Needle goes through that loop there, snug it down nice and tight. And then what I like to do is put my needle back in through the work, bring it out anywhere through a stitch hole, and pull that nice and snug, and that pulls any knot back inside the work where you can't see it. Then take your scissors and you're just going to cut that flush. If there's any loose bits sticking out, just poke them back inside. Last thing to do is to sew the wings onto our snitch. So they attach centrally at the back, opposite your embroidery, and I've pinned this down just to show you where I'm going to sew this on. So I've mounted the long tail of my yarn again onto a tapestry needle, and I'm going to sew this onto the body using a whip stitch. So to do this, I'm just going to pick up a stitch on the body and then bring my needle back through the wing. I'm going to repeat that again. Put the needle through a loop of a stitch on the body and then back through the wing. I'm taking the pins out as I go. This time I'm going to go inside the body of the snitch and I'm going to come out down below near that pink pin there. And then I'm going to stitch through the wing. I'm going to go through one of the stitches on the body and then back up again through the wing. Repeating that one more time. Coming up near that blue pin there. So that's nice and secure looking. To finish off, again, you can either weave in your yarn tail to secure things. I like to bring my work out in a space that isn't as easily seen. And again, I'm going to put a half hitch on there to secure. Snug that down. I'm going to insert the needle inside my work here and bring it out down the bottom here. Pull tight, which pulls any knots inside your amigurumi. And today I'm just going to snip off the end of that yarn. And then we need to repeat the process for your second wing. So you've just scored 150 points at Quidditch. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button and please subscribe for more content like this.